couldn't decide if I should do end of the year book tag. Let me look. Hey, I was gonna do the end of the year book tag first before I did this video, which is 26 books I want to read in 2026. But every end of year book tag that I'm finding through blogs look a lot like the fall book tag. I'm just confused. But that's like so besides the point. I think it's like I'm gonna try to find one that's better for video than it is for vlogs. If that makes sense. That is my New Year's resolution, is to stop saying if that makes sense. My fringe has already gotten too long. And I need to cut it, but that's okay. That's fine. Can you see my eyes? Do you need to see my eyes? It's just not curling right now, I think. It's some days it's a little curly. Today is not one of those days, and I think I'm gonna get a little cut. But what I'm doing for this video is 26 books I want to read in 2026. I'm going to explain why. I'm going to show you some of the books because a lot of them are on my physical TBR that I already did. Like, I think it was back in September I did a TBR wheel or a prompt wheel, one of those wheel things. Pinwheel! Chooses. Please, someone tell me you know what I'm referencing. But it chose my TBR and the order in which I will read my physical TBR. I have deviated from it because of films that are coming out. I wanted to read books first, like Hamnet is the book I'm currently reading, and as of filming this, and I have also been in a bit of a reading slump, so there's a couple that I'm like, let me read this first because I think it'll get me out of the reading slump. I just wanted to make sure that word was like really enunciated. So I was also so good and I didn't put a wash on before filming this video, and I feel like I always do that, but no, I was like, no, you're not gonna hear the wash. If you hear people walking upstairs, that's a different thing. Let me just go through my list of 26. I'm not gonna give the most like in-depth explanation of each book. It's more gonna be why I decided I want to read each book, and I just saw another one I'm gonna grab real quick. Okay, the first book is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I have had this for a little bit and I am finally going to read it in 2026, I swear. I really want to, and I really want to read a Sally Rooney book. I have yet to experience that, but I've heard great things. This book, from what I understand, is about two brothers navigating life, grieving the death of their father. It just kind of follows them. It sounds like a character exploration. So I'm really excited to see if I like Sally Rooney's prose, her way of writing, because some of her other books have piqued my interest, like Beautiful World, Where Are You? I was reading the back of that at an Oxfam Books and it sounded really interesting. I am on a book buying ban, but and I also want to read this before I read any more Sally Rooney to make sure that I do like her writing. There's also a dog on the cover. And sublime! Oh my god. It says sublime literature. What a good word. I love this review. It just says perfect. But yeah, so this was the top of my list for what I want to read in 2026. Next is Chain Gang All-Stars. I did get this out of Oxfam Books, but I've been so much better about my book buying ban since I got this. And it sounds like a very dystopian novel that kind of, unfortunately, is, from what I've also heard in a comment on my video where I showed that I got this, is too relevant. It does sound like from the description as well that it is, it has a lot of allusions to modern society, especially like capitalism and that kind of stuff. On the front it says America's New Hunger Games, so I've heard great reviews of this as well. Brutal, thrilling, devastating, and beautiful, and that's what I need. I heard it is very emotionally, I want to say dense, but even just like it can emotionally wreck you is a way to put that, and I kind of need that. I think I need to become more emotionally invested in the books that I'm reading. Not that I've like been detached or anything from the books I'm reading on purpose, they just haven't pulled me in emotionally as much, and so that's what I mean when I say I need a book that makes me emotionally invested and does wreck me emotionally. I do want that. Those books leave the biggest impact on me, so this is a big one for 2026 that I'm definitely going to read. Next year I'm going to make myself, even if I, once again, have to diverge from the order of my TBR, I'm going to read this book. I just in general hope 2026 is a better reading year. Yes, like, majority of this year I was in grad school and like working on a dissertation and all that kind of stuff, so that definitely got in the way of my reading, but also just like I was in a reading, like the last quarter of this year too, I was like in a bit of a reading slump and just having struggles. Next, I actually have this book right in front of me. I didn't realize that like I put the 3 books in front of me that were the first 3 on the list. I didn't grab all of the books that I have physically because the way that they are on this not really bookshelf but crate thing, it's hard to get them out sometimes. So it's like, let me just grab the easiest ones, and Beloved was on there. So I've never read a Toni Morrison book, but I've heard great things. This is banned in the States and I am on a mission. It's gonna be slowly but surely to read pretty much every banned book that I haven't already read. But I've heard great things about Beloved. So it is, from what I understand, a story of a former slave that is kind of like haunted by the trauma of slavery. From some of the reviews, there is something great in Beloved, a play of human voices, consciously exalted, perversely stressed, yet holding true. It gets you. Another one that I feel like will really emotionally be gripping, and I got it at Minstergate Bookshop, another used bookshop, and I was with a friend who recommended it, so I'm really excited to read it, and I definitely need to like get on that, so I'm going to try to read this in early 2026, which again is a divergence from my planned TBR, but sometimes you can't stick to that, even if I made a video. Like, I'm sorry, but life happens. Next is another book that I have that I definitely want to start, is Paladin's Grace. It's a series. I'm hoping I really like it. I have had issues with romantasy in the past. I mean, my last video was about how much I disliked Fourth Wing, so, and like these really popular fantasy books. Paladin's Grace is like not to the popularity of like Fourth Wing or like those kind of books. That I also just kind of like disagree with other authors, but I have heard good things about Paladin's Grace, and I'm hoping that it has like a good mix of romance and fantasy. I'm hoping it's at least like a fun read, a cozy read, if not like an emotionally dense or an emotional investment type of read. At least hopefully it'll be cute and heartwarming, and it's something I'm looking forward to, and I do already have it. I got it when I had a Waterstones 10-pound credit, and then I was like, I've told the story multiple times, but I ended up getting the book of the month because it wasn't Paladin's Grace, it was Sorcerer Comes to Call, which I will read that eventually as well, but I want to read Paladin's Grace first. But what happened is like it was buy one get one half off, so I was getting like, it'd be less than my 10-pound credit to just get one, and like a couple pounds more to get 2, so I basically got 2 books for like £2, and I ended up, because it was book of the month and I didn't know that, I got a free like tea from their cafe. It was like a whole thing. I was just like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm a fan. Like, I try to buy used books, I try to go to the library, but when Waterstones gives you a 10-pound credit and you can get like 2 books for a few pounds or a couple pounds, and then you get a free drink from the cafe, can I say no? No. I guess I just contradicted myself because I said, can I say no? And then I said no, but I'm saying I can't say no to no. So a bit convoluted, but here we are. The next is a book I have on hold on, I have a few books that are on hold on BorrowBox. That is the library app that I use now, and I love library apps. I love Libby, I love Hoopla, but right now where I live, BorrowBox is the easiest one to use and has the most options on it, so I'm using BorrowBox, and I have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Hello? Let me run that one back. I have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I have read Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've vlogged it. I liked it. I wouldn't say it was like my favorite book even that I read. I think that was in 2024. But I was interested in the story. There were some parts that I was like, wasn't my favorite, but again, I did like it. And I thought it was decent, so I do want to, but I've heard great things about Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, and I did like V.E. Schwab's writing, so I do think I'm going to try that. I mean, I have it on hold. It's going to be available sometime next year. I didn't write down the exact dates I have for the books I have on hold, but I do know that's available sometime next year. I think it might have been, there were some that are available like in January and some that were like on hold till June, so we'll see which one this is. But the next one is Happy Place. I do remember that one was available closer to February. That's another one I'm getting on BorrowBox. I've never read an Emily Henry story. This one's kind of like a reconnection story, or like fake lovers type. I don't like using tropes to explain them, but I do remember that being said in the description. And I've had Emily Henry recommended to me. I've not loved a lot of contemporary romance I've read recently. I liked A Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, but I have heard good things about Emily Henry, and I think I'm willing to try, especially since it's closer to February that will be ready on BorrowBox. And so I think around Valentine's Day I do try to read romance books more, because I mean, why not? I mean, I try to do like, you saw my Halloween recs, you may have seen my Halloween recs. I try to read spookier books around Halloween. I am, in this list as well, trying different genres, so I'll talk more about that. But I like to like stay on theme. I'm not really doing anything for the holidays. I'm not reading like a holiday themed book. Because the ones I've had have been a bit too, if they're like cozy Hallmarky, fine, but some of them are so like aggressively heteronormative and that kind of stuff that I just like, no. That is one of the contemporary romances that I'm going to try this year, because it is on BorrowBox. I also have on BorrowBox the Tuesday Murder Clubs, or the Tuesday Club Murders. Got that mixed up with another popular book, but this is an Agatha Christie. I've never read an Agatha Christie. I do want to read an Agatha Christie. There was a tennis novel I was going to read one time, but this was on BorrowBox, and this is very popular on BorrowBox, so I thought I'd try this one for Agatha Christie, even though it's not one that you like hear about, like ABC Murders or something like that. I want to try this. This one I know was on hold for a while, but I definitely want to try this one once it becomes available on BorrowBox. Another book that I believe is also on BorrowBox is The Poppy War by R. Kwong. I loved Babel. I love R. Kwong's writing, even though I've only read Babel. But the friend who recommended Babel to me also recommended The Poppy Wars and said that he likes The Poppy Wars even more, and I think that is also something that, it's a series, and I think because I've already really liked R. Kwong's writing, I think I will really like The Poppy War, and I'm going to try to get into that series next year. It's on the list. It's not one I own, and also because it's a series, like, we'll see, because I have other series to finish, but I am hoping that I have the time to read that one next year because of how heavily recommended it's been to me. I really want to. I feel like so behind in reading the like current popular books, or even like what was popular a couple of years ago, or especially what has been recommended to me in the past couple of years. Mostly because like the end of 2024, got into grad school, got super busy. Most of 2025, super busy in grad school, so that really like cut into my reading, and also just like the slumps I was in and like not being in the best mental space to read. I feel like I got behind on my TBR, and that also contributed to me feeling behind, but it's also silly to feel behind because like everyone reads at their own pace, everyone's life goes at their own pace, everything happens when it happens. Like there's not, time is rough to come to terms with, but it exists and it moves and we have to keep going. That was my philosophical, really deep moment. That was me basically saying absolutely nothing. Next is another one on BorrowBox. It is called The Lady's Night. It said it's a feminist, queer, like reimagining of medieval England. Need I say more? It really stood out to me, so I put it on hold on BorrowBox. I think that's pretty much everything I have on hold on BorrowBox right now. The rest of this, I believe, are things I either own or like I'm looking to see if I can get from the library or whatnot. But yeah, I am definitely going to use the library as much as I can next year. Highly, highly recommend it, but I also have to get through my physical TBR, so let me continue the list. Next is Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I might be pronouncing her name wrong. I should probably look that up, but I do have the book that I did get at the Minstergate bookshop. Another friend recommended that to me. I have read a lot of like Ursula K. Le Guin's like views on feminism and stuff. I very much agree with her, and I want to read more kind of like straight fantasy. I'm trying, like I said, to go more to like genres, subgenres, that kind of stuff. Try different things than what I'm used to, because especially since like fantasy romance has not been pleasing. as of lately. That was a weird way to put that. Next, another one that's been heavily recommended and I own, Pure Nessie. I'm definitely gonna get to that next year. It's a short read. I have no reason not to read that next year. It was recently recommended to me again, so I'm like, I am gonna read it. I've heard someone described it as no plot, just vibes. So I'm very interested to hear, or to read it, but I'm interested to hear myself reading it in my head. Not that I don't do audiobooks sometimes, I just haven't recently. But the next is This Woven Kingdom. I know there are multiple books after it that have come out, and I keep seeing people talking about the current, most recent book in that series, and just the series in general, especially on TikTok and stuff. And like I said, I am a bit wary of things that are recommended on TikTok and that kind of stuff. But I feel like I've trained my algorithm to give me things that are more up my alley, because the way I've heard people talk about This Woven Kingdom, and it is better at doing like subtext and that kind of stuff, and tension and whatnot, and just the writing sounded more up my alley for like a fantasy romance. So I am really hoping that I enjoy that book. But that is something I will try next year, hopefully try to find. Next I have A Tempest of Tea. This has been on my list. It was one of my most anticipated releases of 2024, I believe, and I never got around to reading it. And I was hoping to read it this past October because there's vampires in it. But if you remember, if you've been here, I got really sick. So I had trouble getting through my reading list of October. So I didn't get around to that one. Moral of the story. And it's not even a moral, it's just like summation. That is something that I am hopefully going to finally get around to reading. I know some local bookstores had that, and it could be at the library. Next I have Harold the Ninth, because I'm currently also reading Gideon the Ninth, and I think this is a series that I'm definitely going to want to continue, so that's why I put Harold the Ninth on there. After that is Bunny. Now this is a bit like outside what I normally read, but I've heard such good things that I do want to try it, and I do kind of want to like step outside my zone of, I've already said, like trying different genres, trying different subgenres, because I've said many times in past videos that I even though I love fantasy and I love romantasy when the books are good, or of my taste, I have always said that I like to try different genres. I just feel like I haven't been doing that as much, and I haven't really been trying a ton of different genres. Like, oh, I'm going to try different genres, but it's just like contemporary romance or historical romance or like lit fic, which there's so many different types of stories you can get with lit fic, so I think that's also why I kind of tend to go to that. But I'm also going to try like horror and more mystery and that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to this year at least, because my next one is Death in the Cards. It's a YA like mystery. I think it might have some horror elements as well, but it piqued my interest because I am fascinated by tarot. Do I necessarily believe in it? No, but I've like had readings before where it's like, let me ask the same question for multiple different cards or like multiple different readers, and I kept getting like the same cards, and I was like, okay, I'm a little weirded out by this, but I'm so interested in tarot. And I think also, I've said this before when talking about it, because I also have tarot cards myself. Like, I'm so interested by it. When I've like done readings for friends for fun and stuff, I'm always like, I feel like if anything, it like solidifies to you what you want to do. You know, if the cards are saying one thing and you're like, I don't like that, then it just tells you like, well, then I need to make this change. You know what I mean? That was just a sidebar about tarot cards and why that book interested me. The next one is Fae-bound. I love Fae. I've said this many times before, and I have been like eyeing this book for a while, wasn't sure about it, saw a review recently, I was like, I think I want to try it in this coming year, so that's why I made this list. We Dance Upon Demons. This is, I think it has some thriller elephants. It has some thriller elephants. It has, hello? It has some thriller elements, but I think it's mainly like a fantasy book, and I will be so real with you. The cover is what got me. But I think it goes with me wanting to try different like little subgenres. Like usually I would like stay away from something like this because it sounds a bit scarier, but I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. I am going to try things because I'm always like, oh no, horror's gonna scare me, but I'll watch horror films and like, yes, sometimes it gives me nightmares, but I have realized it's more like when the visuals stick with me and then I get nightmares. Like I'm not scared of Stranger Things, but it gives me nightmares because of how visually like distinct it is. No one asked. Next I have The Disorder. I heard about this one I think a couple years ago, or maybe it was early 2024. Really piqued my interest. I heard it's very much slow burn. It's a fantasy with a romance subplot, and it's very much going to draw that out to be a slow burn, and I love a slow burn. This is from what I've heard, of course, and so I think it's about time I go for it. Again, this is one of those feeling like I'm not like reading all the popular books as they come out, unfortunately, and that's what makes me feel behind, but I am going to get to this. I think in 2026 I am going to hopefully get to that book. The next one was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. Never read one of Octavia Butler's books, and I'm seeing them all over. Like again, like this is kind of like my TikTok algorithm right now, and I really want to try it. I really want to read. This is the one that I think stuck out the most, or just like I felt like it was a good place to start, so I put it on the list. The next was The Night and the Moth. I loved the Shepherd King duology. I love Rachel Gillig's writing, so I definitely have to try The Night and the Moth because I know a lot of people that liked the Shepherd King duology or loved the Shepherd King duology also love The Night and the Moth, or even people that just read that. I've just heard great things about it. And because I love Rachel Gillig, it's one of those like, if she writes it, I'm gonna read it authors. Like Holly Black's one of those for me. There's a few that are becoming that way for me, but I have to try this book. I have to read this book as soon as I can. Like I kind of wanted to read it this year, but I was like, no, you have so many books to read. I have to. I simply have to in 2026. The next is Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. I saw this one on BorrowBox, so I'm probably going to get it on BorrowBox as well. I've never read an Olivia Blake book, but I would like to. I've heard great things, and this one I recently saw a review that piqued my interest. Also, the cover is giving Severance. I don't think it is anything like Severance, but it still piqued my interest. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, have heard great things, has been recommended by friends, and I've also read Rainbow Rowell in the past and liked her writing. I know she's a very popular author, and I think this might be a YA book. I don't think it's middle grade, I think it's YA. It is another LGBT plus story, but with fantasy as well, and I have seen the second one in Oxfam Books. I remember talking about that in the past, and reading about the second one piqued my interest on this one even more. But I remember add that to my list, at least on Storygraph last year when a friend was telling me about it. And I think they were saying that one of the characters is like Hal in Howl's Moving Castle, so I definitely want to read that, if I remember correctly. Vampires of El Norte. This is a horror book. I did have a friend that didn't like this book, but then I saw a review recently that felt like I might like this book. I think, from what I've heard, it focused on the romance more than you may expect, and I think that's why my friend didn't like that, but I just kind of want to see it for myself. I want to try it. This is a horror book that I feel like I might be able to not get scared by. Because the thing is, like, I do get scared. I have been scared while reading before. I have been given nightmares for reading more now that I think about it, and I think that's why I have avoided horror, but I'm gonna be so brave and try more. The next one is Forget Me Not. It is another contemporary romance that I have seen all over. I want to try it. It's not putting me off, like the descriptions I've heard of it, as much as like some other popular contemporary romances, so I do want to try it. I think it's also just like there are the same authors that are like cranking out book after book after book. This doesn't look like the case with Julie Soto, but I do want to give Forget Me Not a chance. I'm gonna look for it at the library, and if it's there, then I'm definitely gonna read it next year. Next is The Will of the Many, because I just have to read that. I feel so behind. I see people on TikTok reading the second book and their reactions, like they're so gagged, and I'm like, I haven't even read the first book, so I have to read The Will of the Many. it just looks so good. I don't know what else to say about it other than it looks so good. It's a fantasy. It's, I think, a bit dystopian. Yeah, it is. From the description, it does kind of remind me of like Hunger Games, but it also has like an academia to it. So I am very intrigued by that book. The description is like, it's a bit vague, but in a way that really piques my interest. Not in the like, you're giving me nothing, but in the way that I'm like, I need to know what this is about. Especially when I see everyone's reactions to it. So I am excited to try that next year. I have to. I simply have to. I can't sit here and watch everyone's reactions to the second book and not even read the first book next year. We gotta get into that as soon as possible. But that is my 26 books I want to read in 2026. I know I didn't give in-depth descriptions to each one, but this was more so to list them, kind of explain exactly what interests me about them and why I decide it's time for me to read them. But yeah, that's what I have to say, and hopefully you stay around to see my reviews of these books as I read them. I think having this video, because I don't think I did a books I'm going to read in 2025 or even in 2024, I think I just more did like anticipated releases and that kind of stuff. I think having this video will hold me more accountable, especially if you like comment like, I really can't wait to hear your review of this, that, or whatever. It'll make me make sure I read these books and stick to it. So that's what we're hoping for. If you like this, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. I will do the end of the year book tag with questions that I feel like are best for a video. Alright, bye!